Alright, hello and welcome to another Why Would You Use. So, today is going to be a little more in-depth than usual because we're talking about the Tigris Prime. This weapon is in a very, very unique position, and I think that it's relatively fair to say that this is the new best shotgun. It is locked at Master Rank 13, and for good reason. It is incredibly powerful given the right build, and this weapon actually has 3 builds that are very, very powerful, which we'll be going over all of them, though we'll only be like showing really 2. So, let's just look at the base stats real quick. 1200 slash damage, really solid. Also some other damages that are fine. I actually might prefer this more if it was just all slash damage, but that's a crazy thing. It has 30% status chance, which is vitally important. This is only 5% higher than the Vacor Heck, and it makes the just the hugest, most insane difference that you can even possibly imagine. But we'll get to that in a minute. It has 10% critical chance, which is fine. That's okay. You'll crit sometimes. It's all right. Crit multiplier. Those things are only important because if we look at the Sanctity, you can see its crit stats are better chance, but lower multiplier, which is really, really important. It's also less accurate and has that 5% less status chance, which is very, very important. It is faster to reload, though, but also lower base damage. I think it's fairly easy to say that Tigris Prime is better than the Sancti Tigris in most cases. I know there are going to be players that are going to absolutely and definitely value the Syndicate proc for this weapon that will heal them, and that's totally valid. The Sancti Tigris is still an absolutely wonderful weapon. But for those of you that are just looking for raw damage or just raw killing power, really, this is what you're looking for, even with the slightly slower reload. And there's some specific reasons why. So this is kind of the build that's going on right now. At least for me. There's a slight tweak on this build that I'll show in just a second. But the basics of this is that you have 100% status. And that might not seem like too crazy, but it's a shotgun. And it's very, very important that I'm using all of these. All of the elemental status chance mods, because you need all of them. And it might not seem like that, because if I take Toxic Barrage off, I'm at 98%. And you might be thinking, well, hey, 98% is enough. That's enough. You don't need more than 98%. Oh, but you absolutely and most definitely do. It's also very, very important, here we'll just drop that off for one more second, that you have 100% multi-shot, or 100% status chance rather, without multi-shot. It's very, very vitally important, because multi-shot changes this up a little bit, but it won't really reflect that in the status, because your status chance technically goes up whenever you add multi-shot. So 30% is kind of the sweet spot. I believe it's like a tiny tad lower than that for this build. This build can technically be done on, say, the Vacor Heck, but you need to drop Seeking Fury for another status adding mod. I think you can do it with the one that procs off abilities. Not really viable at all, but this is super viable. Now we're going to show you a little bit of math. We're going to do a little bit inside baseball. So the way that you calculate how much status chance your pellets have, your individual pellets in your blast have, is this. So, we know that the Tigris Prime has 8 pellets without multi-shot. Obviously, before multi-shot is whenever you want to do all these calculations. Don't consider that. It has 8 pellets in it. So, if we just math all this out with our 100% status chance, you can see every single pellet that this weapon fires can inflict a separate status, which is incredibly good, incredibly powerful, because that is a lot of status. You can strip armor so fast, you can inflict so much damage with slash, you can just knock down entire crowds because Seeking Fury is here, you'll hit a ton of dudes and do a bunch of blast procs too. It's outstanding. Now, the reason that 98% isn't enough, and actually, you know what? 99% is actually the one that's not enough. That one singular percentage difference on your per pellet ends up with your per pellet status chance being this. It's a bit of a dip, huh? 44% compared to absolute 100%. Huge disparity, and that's why you need all these mods. Now, in this build, what I'm doing is I'm using Sweeping Serration to bias my procs that come out of each pellet, because once you have 100% status, and even before then, really, whenever you're going to proc a status, there's like a roll within the roll where you're rolling what status that's going to be out of your available ones, which we won't really go into that. I can do that another time. That's kind of a bigger inside baseball thing. I'm using Sweeping Serration as opposed to Blaze to bias my stuff towards Slash, and slightly more towards Corrosive as opposed to Blast. But the other build that I'm sure is definitely popular is to use Blaze instead. And they all fit with this set of Forma. Also, worth noting, it's actually not a 5 Forma build. You only need 4 Forma. I messed up whenever I was like figuring out how I was going to be able to fit all of the builds individually here. So it's only 4 Forma. It's not 5. So for adding Blaze, all you do is you drop this, move Toxic down, and you add Blaze up here. And you can see how that affects your damage spread. Less slash damage. Well, it's radiation technically right now, so we would have to do this. Less slash damage, a lot more blast damage, and a little bit more corrosive. So basically, for all intents and purposes, Blast has a huge portion of the like status chance that you're going to be inflicting. But you really only need to inflict 1 Blast proc, so I find this to not be as good, personally. Which is why I choose to not do that. And instead go with Sweeping Serration. They both fit. Both of them are totally viable. Also, you could put Blaze instead of Seeking Fury, but I think the punch through is invaluable. Personal opinion. You could definitely do a mixed build, drop Seeking Fury, add Blaze, and go your own path with it. Totally viable. As long as you're on that 100% status, it's real nuts, and we'll show why kind of at the end, based on some stuff that we showed yesterday with the enemy shenanigans with their health and all that. Configuration B here. This is the relatively popular 4-shot Tigris. With this one, this is, as you can see, a lot of corrosive damage, corrosive heat, slash okay status chance. Obviously, the per pellet thing we just talked about, you can run it through that and figure out what the per pellet status chance is. Obviously, not even close to as high. This build is for kind of just low-level stuff, like mid-low level stuff. This is really functional. For a Nova, this is really good for charging up your 2. You can like charge up 2 of your 2 and just send those out and have those around. It's good situationally, mostly whenever your damage is so overkill that you would rather spread it across more shots. It's very nice for that, though. And then Configuration A. So what this is just like foregoing, entirely foregoing, like the status thing, basically, and kind of ignoring it. This build is only for enemies that are immune to status. That includes like Sentience. This will be better against those enemies because it has much better burst against them due to the much higher damage, of course. And they're immune to status, so the status wouldn't help you anyway, which means this build is better in those situations. But we're going to be doing the test with this thing because it's real good. It's real solid. And I don't... So this type of build has been talked about, and I don't think it is going to surprise anybody that this build is going to fucking absolutely shred these dudes. Like, it's going to be comical, is what it really is. Like, honestly, my goal during this test is going to be, I wonder how many of them I can get in a line. Like, that's what I want to accomplish, is to get more of them in a line. Like that. Oh, that guy got to duck from the last proc. Alright. Obviously, from whenever we talked about the Sanctuary Tigris, being able to go very, very quickly is incredibly useful because you can get around bombard rockets, and then just being pretty accurate is enough. Where's that bombard at? Blow up this wall. Thank you. Alright, I got him with one of my 2 shots, and that was enough. But yeah, as you can see, like, I hit the level 50 bombard with one of the 2 shells in my burst, and he fucking just got obliterated instantaneously. This weapon is incredibly powerful. Like, even hitting one of these enemies with half of a shot, like half of one of these, is death. Just absolutely death. So, as those of you that watched the video yesterday, and if you didn't, I would encourage you to go watch it. You might find it interesting. We're going to show the enemies that I talked about in that video, which are the level 140 of their given factions. So that's regular bombards, which, as we know, for those of you that don't want to go watch the video, they have this much EHP. And we're going to see how fast this thing kills them. It's worth noting that if my Excel gets hit by one of these rockets, he will absolutely die. Three bursts. Gunners, who are weak to corrosive innate lane, will take far more damage from this, and are actually just generally weaker. Once again, against this level of enemy, this Excalibur is incredibly vulnerable, and there's a reason I'm blinding these guys. I think this one might actually just fizzle out from the slash. Yep. I could have shot again, but that's the corrupted heavy gunner. And I don't feel like I need to show this, really, but I will anyway, for the sake of doing so. Ancient Healer. Won't even be close for this one. The slash would have fizzled him out. And the Corpus Tex. Which, as you can see, I've been showing their EHP on screen. And obviously, these aren't good against these factions. Oh, shit. That was weird. I did not mean to jump off that wall. Yeah. You can see that this brings these enemies with wildly different EHP values kind of all together. And they're all level 140, so of course they're very hardy. It kind of brings them just all together, because you just eat armor. Absolutely devour armor. And the other enemies just... the slash damage is just too much. It's just so much slash damage and so much slash proccing, and it's just so ridiculously powerful. For comparison's sake, this is the raw damage build, as we showed before, with much less status. Not to say none will proc, but it is much less status. I have blind him for the sake of it. That's very painful. Might have to cast my, yeah, I'm gonna keep casting that, or else it will shoot me and kill me. You can see the damage disparity here that armor offers when you're not stripping it. We're doing lots of slash procs. These rockets aren't following me. Good, I actually managed to juke them. This is the guy. I'll die instantly if he fires one shot, which is worth noting. So I'm not taking any chances with that. Yeah. So you can see why this status build is so good. Oh no. Oh no, I'm out of energy. Oh no. Oh no. Okay, got him. Yeah. You can see why that status build is so good against armored opponents. It's incredibly powerful. Incredibly powerful. However, all the builds are kind of like just 4 different things. When you need the burst, you'll use the burst. When you don't need the burst, you're going to use this. Pretty much in all cases, I would say. This build is fucking outstanding. Absolutely fucking outstanding. And that's the Tigris Prime. And I'll see you guys tomorrow.